There comes a moment in life when you must choose. Will you keep justifying your existence to those who seek to drain you, or will you stand firm, unshaken, unbothered? Too often we waste our breath trying to make the blind see and the deaf hear. We plead our case before hearts that have already sentenced us, explaining ourselves to minds poisoned by their own darkness. But tell me, when has a wolf ever asked a sheep for its opinion? Your worth is not up for debate. It never has been, and it never will be. Yet time and time again we find ourselves standing before those who doubt us, explaining, defending, and justifying who we are. Why? Because the world has conditioned us to believe that validation is something we must earn from others, that acceptance is a currency we must trade our peace for. But this is a lie. You do not need anyone's permission to exist as you are. The moment you begin to see yourself as enough, as whole, as unshaken by external judgment, you free yourself from the chains of doubt. People will always have opinions, and some of them will be unkind, unfair, and rooted in their own insecurities. But their voices should never be louder than your own. Your worth is not something that can be negotiated, argued, or voted on. It is a truth as certain as the rising sun, and whether others choose to see it or not is of no concern to you. Stop explaining, stop proving, stop seeking approval from those who will never grant it freely. Stand firm in who you are, and let the world adjust accordingly. You were not born to be understood by everyone. There will always be those who misunderstand you, misjudge you, and twist your intentions to fit their own narratives. Some will question your dreams, your choices, your very existence, as if you owe them an explanation. But ask yourself, when did their judgment become law? When did their opinions hold more weight than your truth? The need to explain yourself is a trap, a never-ending loop that keeps you seeking validation from those who are never meant to give it. You do not need to convince anyone of your worth, because your worth is not something that requires permission to exist. The moment you stop explaining yourself to those who refuse to see you clearly, you reclaim your power. You take back the energy you have wasted trying to make the blind see and the deaf hear. You are not here to make others comfortable with who you are. You are here to live, to grow, to thrive, not to shrink yourself into something digestible for those who lack the capacity to appreciate you. There is a freedom that comes when you realize that you do not need to be liked, understood, or accepted by everyone. The need for approval is a cage, and the key to breaking free is understanding that your value is not tied to the opinions of others. People will project their fears, their insecurities, and their doubts onto you, trying to mold you into a version of yourself that suits their comfort. But that is not your burden to carry. You are not responsible for easing the discomfort of those who cannot handle your light. The truth is, those who truly see you, who truly appreciate you, will never require an explanation. They will not demand that you prove yourself or justify your existence. They will not question your value because they recognize it without conditions. But even if no one else sees your worth, that does not diminish it. The mountain does not shrink because someone refuses to acknowledge its height. The ocean does not dry up because someone claims it is not deep enough. And you do not lose your value because someone else fails to recognize it. Strength is not found in seeking external validation. It is found in standing firm in who you are, regardless of who approves. People will always have something to say. They will criticize, they will judge, they will doubt. But what they say does not define you. Their perception of you is not your reality. You do not exist to meet their expectations or to fit into their limited understanding. When you stop explaining yourself, you send a clear message. You do not seek approval, and you do not need permission to be who you are. This is not arrogance. It is self-respect. It is the unwavering belief that your worth is not dependent on outside opinions. Some may call it defiance, but it is simply a refusal to be controlled by the insecurities of others. The more you try to explain yourself, the more power you give away. Every time you seek validation, you hand over a piece of your confidence. But when you stop, when you stand firm, you take that power back. You become untouchable, not because you are unfeeling, but because you have learned that your worth is not up for debate. Silence is power. In a world that constantly demands explanations, reactions, and justifications, the ability to remain silent is a rare strength. People expect you to respond to their doubts, to defend yourself against their accusations, to explain your choices so they can judge whether or not they approve. But the moment you engage in this endless cycle, you hand over your power. Silence is not weakness, it is restraint. It is the quiet confidence of someone who knows their worth and does not feel the need to prove it. When you stop explaining, stop reacting, stop justifying, you force the world to sit in the weight of your silence. You show them that their opinions do not control you, that their approval is not a necessity, and that your truth does not require validation. Silence unsettles those who thrive on your responses. It denies them the power they seek. It forces them to reflect on their own words, their own actions, and their own insecurities. When you choose silence, you are not surrendering, you are standing firm. You are demonstrating that your energy is too valuable to be wasted on those who do not deserve it. There will always be people who try to provoke you, who feed off your reactions, who attempt to manipulate you into breaking your composure. They want you to explain yourself, to prove yourself, to engage in a battle where they set the rules. But silence is the game they cannot win. It strips them of control, leaves them questioning, wondering, unable to predict your next move. When you refuse to explain, you refuse to be played. Every unnecessary response is a transaction, an exchange of energy where you give them a part of yourself. And for what? So they can twist your words, misinterpret your meaning, or use your vulnerability against you? No, that is why you remain silent. You do not owe them clarity. You do not owe them comfort. You do not owe them a single word. Your silence is a mirror, and in it they will see the truth of themselves. It will expose their intentions, their insecurities, their desperate need for control. When you stop reacting, they lose their grip on you. And that is power. Silence is often mistaken for submission, but it is anything but. It is a weapon sharper than words, stronger than explanations, more powerful than any argument. The wise do not waste breath on those who are committed to misunderstanding them. They do not engage in battles that have no victory. They do not lower themselves to the level of those who seek to provoke them. Instead, they choose silence. Because silence is a statement in itself. It says, I do not need to prove myself to you. It says, your opinion does not change my reality. It says, I will not allow you to control my energy. This is not about running from conflict or avoiding conflict. It is about choosing which battles are worth fighting. And the battle for the approval of those who do not respect you is never worth it. Silence is the ultimate form of self-respect. It is knowing that your truth is enough, even when left unspoken. It is understanding that real power is not found in endless explanations, but in quiet certainty. Those who demand explanations from you are often the ones who do not deserve them. They are the ones who have already made up their minds, who are not listening to understand but only to argue. They will twist your words, challenge your truths, and seek to pull you into their chaos. And if you let them, you will find yourself drained, exhausted, caught in a battle that was never yours to fight. But when you choose silence, you rise above. You refuse to play their game. You take back control. Silence creates distance, and distance is clarity. It allows you to see people for who they truly are, unclouded by the noise of their opinions. It teaches you who is worthy of your energy and who is only there to take from you. And most importantly, it reminds you that you do not owe your peace to anyone. The moment you stop explaining yourself to those who only seek to diminish you, you reclaim your power in a way that words never could. There is a certain kind of strength in restraint, in holding back when the world expects you to react. Silence requires discipline, patience, and an unshakable sense of self. It is easy to argue, to defend, to justify, but it is far more powerful to simply be. When you remain silent in the face of provocation, you send a message that cannot be ignored. You show that you are in control of yourself, that your emotions do not belong to the world, that your energy is sacred. This is not indifference. It is mastery. It is the ability to walk away without feeling the need to have the last word. It is the confidence of knowing that truth does not need to be shouted to be real. The greatest leaders, the strongest minds, the most powerful souls understand this. Silence is not empty. It is full of meaning, full of weight, full of unshaken certainty. It is the language of those who know that their power does not lie in the noise, but in the unwavering presence of their being. When you master silence, you master yourself. You become immune to the chaos of others, unaffected by their opinions, untouchable in your sense of self. There is a reason why silence is feared by those who seek control over you. It strips them of their power. It forces them to confront the reality that they cannot manipulate you, that they cannot force you into a reaction, and that is the deepest form of power. When you refuse to engage, when you choose not to respond, you set yourself apart from those who are controlled by their emotions. You operate from a place of strength, not from a place of weakness. You become the observer, not the participant. And in that space of silence, you gain clarity. You see things as they are, not as others want you to see them. You become untouchable, not because you are invulnerable, but because you have chosen not to be disturbed by the noise of those who do not matter. The world will always try to pull you into unnecessary battles, into conversations that drain you, into arguments that serve no purpose. But the power of silence is knowing when to walk away, when to disengage, when to protect your peace. It is not about avoiding life's challenges, but about understanding which ones are truly worth your time. You do not need to explain yourself to those who refuse to see you clearly. You do not need to justify your path to those who were never meant to walk it with you. And most of all, you do not need to waste your energy proving yourself to those who will never truly listen. Silence is power because it is choice. It is the choice to value yourself above the noise. It is the choice to stand firm without the need for validation. It is the choice to remain unshaken in a world that constantly seeks to pull you in every direction. And in that choice, in that silence, there is an undeniable, unbreakable strength. There comes a time when you must make a decision, not for them, but for yourself. You must decide that your peace is more valuable than their chaos, that your energy is too sacred to be wasted on those who drain you. There are people in this world who are like poison, their presence slowly eroding your confidence, your happiness, your sense of self. They manipulate, they belittle, they twist words, and they make you feel as though you are never enough. And yet, out of loyalty, out of guilt, out of habit, you stay. You give them chance after chance, explaining yourself, justifying your feelings, trying to prove that you are worthy of kindness and respect. But tell me, when has drinking poison ever led to healing? When has exposure to venom ever strengthened the soul? You must learn to walk away, not because you are weak, not because you do not care, but because you refuse to be a willing participant in your own destruction. Walking away is not an act of defeat. It is an act of power. It is a declaration that you will no longer tolerate being diminished by those who thrive on your suffering. You do not owe anyone unlimited access to your life, especially those who have proven time and time again that they cannot be trusted with it. Some people are not meant to stay, and forcing them to does not create love or loyalty. It only breeds resentment and exhaustion. You can spend years explaining yourself, trying to get them to see your heart, trying to get them to understand your perspective. But if someone is committed to misunderstanding you, they will never truly listen. And so you must decide. Will you keep pouring yourself into a cup with a hole at the bottom, or will you finally set it down and walk away? Letting go is not easy. It requires strength to remove yourself from something that once felt like home. But what is the point of staying in a place where you are constantly gasping for air? The people who truly care for you will never require you to sacrifice your peace in order to keep them in your life. And those who do, they were never meant to be there in the first place. There are people who will only love you as long as you fit into the version of you that serves them. The moment you outgrow their expectations, the moment you refuse to be controlled, their love turns to criticism, their kindness turns to hostility. They make you feel selfish for choosing yourself, as if your existence is meant to revolve around their needs, and so you stay small. You silence your voice, you shrink into the version of yourself that makes them comfortable, all because you fear losing them. But what kind of love requires you to betray yourself? What kind of relationship demands that you suffer in silence just to keep the peace? That is not love. That is manipulation. That is control. And you do not have to accept it. You are allowed to walk away from anyone who makes you feel like you are too much or not enough. You are allowed to protect yourself from those who use their love as a weapon, who make you question your worth. Love should never cost you your peace. If it does, it is poison. Walking away does not mean you do not care. It does not mean you did not try. It means you have finally recognized that some people are not willing or capable of meeting you where you deserve to be met. It means you have finally realized that your worth is not tied to someone else's inability to see it. You do not have to prove your goodness to those who only see you through the lens of their own insecurities. You do not have to keep explaining yourself to people who twist your words and question your intentions. If someone cannot appreciate your presence, let them feel your absence. You cannot make someone value you by staying in a place that is killing your spirit. You cannot force someone to treat you right by enduring their mistreatment. You cannot make someone love you the way you deserve by settling for less than you need. There comes a time when you must choose yourself, not as an act of selfishness, but as an act of survival. And those who truly care for you will understand why you had to leave. Not everyone who enters your life is meant to stay. Some are only there to teach you a lesson, to show you what you will no longer tolerate, to remind you of your own strength. But the lesson loses its value if you refuse to move on. There is no wisdom in staying where you are not valued, in continuously trying to fix what is already broken beyond repair. You must recognize when a chapter has ended and find the courage to turn the page. Walking away does not mean you are weak. It means you are strong enough to let go of what no longer serves you. It means you are choosing your own well-being over the illusion of stability. It means you are no longer willing to drink from a poisoned cup, hoping that one day it will turn into water. Some battles are not meant to be fought. Some situations are not meant to be endured. Some people are not meant to be in your life forever. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you will find freedom. You are not obligated to keep toxic people in your life just because of history. Time does not justify mistreatment. Loyalty does not require suffering. If someone continuously drains your energy, disrespects your boundaries, and makes you feel like you have to fight for their love or approval, then walking away is not abandonment, it is self-respect. The longer you stay in a situation that poisons your peace, the more you allow it to define you. You become accustomed to the pain, comfortable in the chaos, convinced that this is just how life is, but it is not. There is a life beyond the toxic relationships, the exhausting battles, the endless justifications. There is a life where you are surrounded by people who appreciate you without condition, who respect your boundaries without question, who love you without making you feel like you have to earn it. But you will never find it if you keep holding on to what is breaking you. You must be willing to let go. You must be willing to walk away. People will try to make you feel guilty for choosing yourself. They will call you selfish, ungrateful, difficult. They will accuse you of abandoning them, when in reality they abandoned you the moment they decided your feelings did not matter. Do not let their words make you question your decision. You do not owe anyone your suffering. You do not have to stay in places where you are constantly fighting to be heard, to be seen, to be loved. You do not have to explain why you are leaving when they already know the answer. Some people are fully aware of the pain they cause but will never take accountability because they benefit from your silence, your compliance, your willingness to endure. Do not fall into their trap. You are allowed to choose peace over chaos. You are allowed to choose yourself over someone who would never do the same for you. Walking away is not a betrayal. It is an act of self-preservation. It is the moment you decide that you are worth more than what they have given you. The most dangerous thing you can do is convince yourself that staying in a toxic situation is easier than leaving. It is not. The pain of walking away is temporary. The pain of staying lasts forever. The longer you allow poison to remain in your life, the more it spreads. It clouds your mind, drains your energy, and convinces you that this is all there is. But there is more. There is peace. There is freedom. There is a life where you are not constantly defending yourself, not constantly explaining, not constantly justifying why you deserve to be treated with respect. But you must be willing to step away from the poison to reach it. You must be willing to release what is weighing you down. And when you finally do, you will realize that walking away was never a loss. It was the greatest act of self-love you have ever given yourself. When you finally walk away from what poisons you, you reclaim yourself. You take back the energy that was drained by people who never truly saw you. You silence the voices that made you question your worth. You free yourself from the exhausting cycle of explaining, defending, and justifying your existence to those who never intended to understand you. The moment you decide that your peace is more valuable than someone else's comfort, you break a pattern that was never meant to define you. You were not put on this earth to carry burdens that are not yours. You were not meant to stay in places where you are unappreciated. You do not have to keep setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. Walking away is not abandonment, it is self-preservation. It is a declaration that you will no longer sacrifice your well-being for people who would never do the same for you. It is the ultimate act of power, of courage, of self-respect. And when you make that choice, when you finally step away from the poison, you will feel something you may not have felt in a long time: freedom. The people who were never meant for you will try to make you doubt yourself. They will try to convince you that you are wrong, that you are overreacting, that you are selfish for choosing yourself. But deep down, they know the truth. They know you are leaving because you finally see them for who they are. They know you are no longer willing to tolerate their manipulation, their cruelty, their constant disregard for your feelings, and that terrifies them. Because once you walk away, they lose the power they once had over you. They lose the ability to control you, to make you feel small, to use your kindness against you. But that is not your concern. You are not responsible for how others react to your decision to choose peace. You are not obligated to shrink yourself so they can feel bigger. You do not have to justify why you refuse to drink from a poisoned cup. Your only responsibility is to yourself. To protect your heart, your mind, your spirit from those who seek to diminish. Walking away is not easy. It requires strength to leave behind something that once felt familiar, even if it was painful. It takes courage to step into the unknown, to remove yourself from a situation that drained you but felt safe in its predictability. But what is the cost of staying? How much longer will you allow yourself to be broken by something that no longer serves you? How many more days will you spend explaining yourself to people who refuse to listen? How much more of yourself will you lose in the process? There is a life beyond this. There is peace beyond the pain, clarity beyond the confusion, love beyond the toxicity. But you will never reach it if you keep holding on to what is poisoning you. You must be willing to let go. You must be willing to trust that what is ahead is far greater than what you are leaving behind. And when you finally take that step, when you finally choose yourself, You will realize that walking away was never the hardest part. The hardest part was convincing yourself that you deserved better. And now you know. May God bless you. Thank you.